Hola community, I'm Pablo Vazquez and this is another weekly episode of Blender Today Live, where we see all the improvements, all the new stuff. We celebrate Juan Ortega's birthday from the chat, and we see what's new. There are so many areas that are being improved. Blender 2.91 is under development, but it's about to enter in like 2 days. About to enter the beta stage, which means only bug fixes and also no new features. Like, not allowed to have any new features, just fixing it, fixing all the new features that were added since like what it's been like a month, 2 months or so. There's so many new features that developers don't get a rest, right? I was thinking that now in a few weeks I actually have to start working on the release notes page, doing all the PR stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be some work. But hey, here we are to talk about it live. We're also gonna be answering questions towards the end of the show if there is a time. Of course, there will be time, but yeah, let's see how it goes. Animation Q&A 123 is the episode of today. You can go to BlenderToday or the Blender community website, where you can leave your questions that we will be answering a bit later. Yes, this is a live. Joe Bella JB is asking in the chat. Actually, I have here my chat, the chat open. So let's talk. Let's hang out while I present new features. Remember, next week is gonna be the Blender the next week on Friday is gonna the next next one is gonna be the Blender conference. Yes, that people are already receiving the boxes, the comfort boxes. You can see it's on Twitter. If you go to Twitter, you're gonna see BCon20. And you can see people already receiving the boxes, not leaving them 1 second. But the most important thing is to not open it until the 30th of October. Otherwise, what's the fun? All right. Thank you, Bart, for making the thread on Blender Artist. Everybody's sharing their boxes over there. All right. Let's get down to business. Let's get down with the sickness. Is that what the song said? Yes. And a sound I will never be able to make. All right. Section number 1. Let's start more modest. User interface. Well, actually, this is not very modest. It's an amazing feature that it improves on what it was already there from the features from this big user interface improvement that was done in 291. I made a video about the initial implementation some time ago in this channel, and the feature itself. If I allow my evil twin to switch me to the other side, here we can see there is a search, and it's just the best thing ever. The other day I was making a tutorial, and I needed this feature. So I've been using Blender for a while, so I should remember where things are, but no. The search now not only search on whatever context you have here active, but it also searches on other tabs. You see, I am in so for example, here I am in the box I'm checking the transform settings of my cube, or a material. I'm searching for a material. Cool. So what if I want to change the render samples of my viewport? I can just write samples, and because it didn't find the word samples anywhere else, like in other tabs, it went directly to the only tab that had that option. So it took me to the render settings here, and it's highlighting all the sample related stuff, like the volumetrics panel and the samples and samples distribution settings that are here, plus the samples setting under the sub panel volumetric shadows. It's not nice. That's amazing. You don't have to remember things anymore. I love this. Some people suggested that we should remove all the other panels, like it should just only show what it can find. But I disagree, because this actually makes you remember makes you like see where in the whole list things are and where in context. So I think it's better this way. Maybe it could be an option in the settings for like advanced users, pro users. But for the time being, it's cool that it shows you some context where things are. When the setting is in many tabs, it will just highlight it everywhere. So for example, if I see, let's see, like for example here, viewport, render. I think viewport should appear in multiple tabs. Yeah. So if I search for viewport, I see that I stay in the render tab because there is already a result, but it's also highlighting all the other viewport panels, the viewport display for object modifiers. In this case, it looked even inside of the subdivision modifier. Isn't that great? Maybe you should highlight the whole modifier, like the header of the modifier, not just the one setting. Actually, this is so smart that it even opens the panel for you, and it's even smarter because once you cancel, it remembers what you had open before, so you don't lose your selection or your carefully crafted panel layout. You know, if you are keep only these panels on the top, for example, and you just find something that it's not there, when you cancel, it will go back to here. Oh, there was a refresh issue there, but it went there. So it's awesome. Thank you very much, Hans, for working on it. It's just insane that you it feels like you just started working for Blender like a few months ago, and making this plus the modifier list plus all the other projects is just awesome. So super happy to have him on the team now, working full-time. Yay. So all right, let's see. Somebody asking in the chat, this is the same Pablo in the new sculpting stuff? No, I am the Pablo that that just shows stuff, doesn't make anything. The other guy, it's called Pablo Dobarro, and he's a developer. We're gonna be talking about sculpt stuff though, so stay tuned. All right, let's continue. So this is also a very nice tweak. This is for improving accessibility. This was done by Harley, and what it does, look, I think there's a picture somewhere. Oh no, there should be a picture somewhere. I can find it otherwise. So there's a commit, and this is a diff, the differential. Okay, well, I can show you basically. In previous versions of Blender, when you changed the DPI settings, there were a few settings that would not scale properly, like a few text settings that would not scale properly, like here, like the text in here. Let me see if I can find. Do I have an older Blender version? This is from 4 days ago. Maybe this one doesn't have it. Let's see. No, this one also has it, but I bet if I go back in time, or I just you just trust me that it was the case. Scale. Now this is still there. There was a screenshot that was showing the issue, but or maybe it was the popovers that were not scaling properly. There were some areas in Blender that were not scaling properly, and this is terrible for accessibility, right? We should focus on bringing the text can be scaled everywhere, and the colors can be changed everywhere, because that allows developers and people, anybody, to make your own themes with like bright colors, thick borders, and even if you can't see very well, you can at least tell some of the items around, which I think it should also be the case of why we should allow to have colored icons in some parts, because that would be good for accessibility. Not everywhere in Blender, but it should be an option. Okay. All right, let's continue. What else? Monochrome. Oh, this is a design change that it's making the, I don't know if you remember, but I think I have 2.82 somewhere here. Yeah, 2.82. Look at this ancient Blender. So the, do I have it here? Look at this Blender. The only good thing about this Blender is the splash screen. The rest, it's crazy how Blender versions get old. This is 282, so it's not even the LTS release. But when you close Blender, it would oh, this one didn't even show the icon. In 2.83, it would show like a big yellow icon that was screaming at you, which was a bit too intense. So the change now is that the icon is no longer colored that badly, because I mean, it's not that you're doing anything wrong, you're just closing, and it's telling you like you could lose some data. Actually, and even then, you are not losing data when you close Blender, because it makes a file called quit.blend in your temp. So you actually never, like we could even do without this menu. Of course not, it's not gonna go away. It's nice to know, but you don't lose data. It's always a quit.blend. The change though is to make this icon like more of an outline and more like less in your face, and I think it looks nicer too, and it fits with the rest of Blender, all the monochrome icons in the rest of Blender. This is the old one. Yes, gonna keep it around for reference. How long we got? All right, let's see. How's the chat going, by the way? I'm gonna have some mate. I had some, not pain, but I had some coughing like 3 days ago, but I should be fine. I haven't seen anyone, so I don't think it's a thing that is going around, but doesn't cough. Yeah, this is mate. Let's see. Change invert filter icon for UI list. This is just also a little change. The icon for the UI list, it used to be here. Let's bring this is 2.91 and here. So this is I don't know if you ever noticed, but the filter icon for the UI list is this guy over here. That for inverting the, like, you can search for, well, this is not the best example, but you can filter by anything here. However, the invert, it was like a plus icon. Why? Like a zoom in icon, and that is inverting. So now it's actually a more proper icon. It's like this arrow back and forth, but it might even change. It might even be a real, because this is like flip, not invert. It should be a bit different, but at least it's a bit more readable. That change was done by Antonio Vazquez, so thank you for looking into it. And there's my Spanish coming out, because I'm about to show a patch by a Spanish contributor, Juan Fran Mateo. He's been doing crazy add-ons with user interfaces for brushes and stuff, but it's a bit too radical for that kind of changes right at this moment in the Blender development. However, the patch that he made makes it so it's from a right-click select proposal, where it will show the path when you open when you go over with the mouse over open recent files, for example. So now he just made it. He just made it. Now it shows the path where this file is. And it's super nice. There were also some changes to maybe add more data, like the size or the modified date, for example. But super nice to see this contribution. Thank you, Juan Fran, for working on it, and for all the million patches that you are making lately. What else? Oh, remember last week I mentioned that now you can press backspace to reset to default values, and that Hans last week added the default value for many settings in Blender. So when you reset to default value, it doesn't go just to 0 always, but it goes to a more sane value, to the it fixed it pretty much. And he noticed that I was pressing backspace and it wasn't showing in the right click menu, so he fixed it. Isn't nice? So thank you again, Hans. What else? That is all for the changes. There is one more which doesn't fit in that section, but I wanted to give a shout out to Janus Patas, the Patyan user, because he made it so subdivision surface modifier uses a viewport subdivision settings. It's a little change, it's a little improvement, but it was it's a fix that is worth giving a shout out. Thank you for making Blender better. All right, let's go. Let's move into what do we do now? Do we do some sculpting news, or let's do the one feature that was added in this new section? Because how often do we have a new section here, like a new section? This is how I present, how I build my Blender 2 days. You know, I have the title, UI, and then I show the features, and then I have, for each section, I have like a subtitle, like a title. In this case, I had to make a new section for volumes because we have a new type of object since Blender 2.83, 2.90. Volume objects. And if you remember Blender volume mesh, I made a video not too long ago where here, mesh to volume modifier, where I explain this new awesome feature where you can make it so you can convert any geometry, any mesh, into a volume. And then I ask you, hey, what do you think? What kind of modifiers do we need? And people were super mentioning some proposals for modifiers, and then one of them is like, hey, what about the inverse, volume to mesh? Well, I didn't mention this anywhere, but the developer Jack Luke actually made it happen. So now there is a new modifier. So new modifier alert. Do we have a sound for the new modifier alert? Maybe like the Inception. New modifier has entered the room. Volume to mesh. Any mesh now can have this amazing, crazy, kind of crazy. Let's see, what are we looking at here? So here we are looking at a mesh, right? Doesn't even have faces, just a mesh that it's being converted to a volume first. Let me finish. So that's why it looks like this. That's why it looks like weird. And then that volume is being converted back to a mesh. Yep, that's happening. So that's why this little plane that just they're not even like, doesn't even have volume. It's just super plain. And you're making it into a volumetric shape. And then back into a mesh. And that mesh, of course, can have displacement, can have weird stuff. Yeah, this is not safe for work, Plechenko is mentioning. This is almost illegal to do this kind of things. Yeah, I can't wait to see what crazy people are gonna do with this. What do you plan to do already? When you look at this, what besides these walls, or like clouds, or like I don't know. I can't think. Something that is volumetric, that it has something inside. Caves! Yes, Vladimir, caves. Mesh smoke seams. Yeah, exactly. You can simulate... Wait. You can simulate... Wait. Let me... So, is this the latest and greatest? 19 October. Yes, that is today. So explosions. Yes. So for example, let's have this monkey and let's do a quick smoke. So we have the smoke, right? So now this is a smoke domain. I need an actual cube. So I could no, it's a smoke domain. I don't want that. I want a volume. So volume, I add an empty, and then the empty can be the monkey. So the monkey is my geometry, and the volume is gonna have a modifier to convert the monkey geometry mesh to volume. So the monkey geometry into a volume. And well, now let's do the opposite, right? Let's grab a let's grab the monkey and let's add a volume to mesh. Let's see if you can see it here. Volume to mesh is all the way at the bottom. Actually, it's badly placed. It's a volume, so it's V, so it should be before weld. Anyway, volume to mesh, and then let's choose the volume. So this probably is not gonna. Oh, wait. Okay, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. I created an infinite loop. So basically what I'm making here is the okay, illegal. All right, so this is a monkey made into a volume, made into a mesh again. Foam, yes. Voids, volume to mesh. Can you smoke into mesh? Can you? Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right, so crazy stuff. Porridge walls here in the comments. A spaceship, motion graphics, tornado, terrifying caves, terrain generation, foam, galaxies, nebula. Oh, we need to tell Gleb about this. Toonie smokes, yes, can finally mesh smoke seams. So super good. What you did is illegal. Well, guys, when I say illegal, it's a joke, right? It's like, it's so good that it's almost illegal because it's so good. Clay, yes, that is amazing. All right, let's continue because there is actually more stuff. Let's move into the other epic section of the day. This case, sculpt. All right. It's hard to stop the excitement after such a feature, and then to see you all, everybody in the chat, like, oh, we can do this and that, making face melt. Yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff. It's just awesome. Let's all right, let's settle down, relax, take a chill pill, and then see the other amazingness in the section that we call the sculpt section, also known as Pablo Vazquez section. He added, for the soft body influence, he added a setting for plasticity, and I can tell my evil twin to go here. So okay, plasticity for soft body influence. What does it mean? Previously, the soft body strength property was controlling the strength of the constraints that pin all the vertices to the original location. It was causing problems when the forces were trying to deform the vertices too much, like when using gravity or grab brushes. So let's go to the diff, because Pablo always makes amazing videos that make things better. So there is this video that shows the difference between different settings. Plasticity is like yeah, it preserves the shape. It's like if it was plastic, I guess. But this one shows it better here. Oops. Let's see. So this soft body interaction, this is moving it too fast. It's just showing performance or what? Ah, no, it's because on a fast stroke it can preserve the shape. And that is the soft body influence. Yeah, ooh, nice. It's just amazing. It's just super cool. All right, what else? Here, pen users. How many of you are pen as in stylus users? Like this guy. Now Blender has support, experimental support, sculpt support for pen tilt support. So like Vladimir and Ari Asihaka in the chat. If you guys have pen tilt support, now you should be able to map this and be able to actually use. Look! I don't know if you notice here, but the one side of the pen has the this bump, and the other side doesn't. So good, nice. You have a pen display, Tomo Prime. How does that work? Well, here Pablo Vazquez actually also has a pen display, but isn't that awesome? I don't think mine supports it. Mine is a little a Wacom, but a tiny one. I don't know. Do you know, guys, if this one, the small Intuos tiny one, has pen tilt support? This is the cheapest one. Actually, I had a bigger 300 euro, this big, and I sold it because I wanted a tiny one that it actually fits in my desk. I think not. Sorry, Pablo. Oh, well, that's okay. It's I didn't want it either. It was called bamboo. Yeah. No, it does not. I have the same. Is it? But do they make a tiny version with tilt support? I hope. So far, apparently it's enabled in the draw, sharp, flatten, fill, scrape, and clay strip brushes, but it can be enabled in more tools later. Let's see. The purpose of this patch is to have a usable implementation of pen tilt in painting mode. So yeah, this can be actually, this is basic support, so it can be translated to maybe other parts of Blender. That's the exciting part. All right, small one. This is user interface, a small one. Now the paintbrush cursor is available in all the tools. So let's see. So this patch enables the paintbrush cursor with all the tools in sculpt mode, even those that are not brushes. The motivations for this change are: the filters are using the position of the active vertex for certain features, so that is very important. You can call operators like mask expand and without a brush enabled, so you need the brush to be there. And having the cursor in the rest of the tools allows to have a scene scale representation of this radius. So yeah, in general, it's good to have this cursor always there. You know, another cursor related feature improvement is that the trimming gestures now will take the cursor depth into account. So for example, you can do crazy things like this. Let's go back. You can now choose where you paint to create this tool that we saw last week. Remember, it was the trim tool that also adds geometry, and you can choose now because it takes the position of the cursor where you click first as a starting point for adding that geometry. That is super cool. Look at this. It looks like a like Aztec or Mayan, you know, kind of mask. And that is a butterfly, a Mayan butterfly, Maya as in the civilization, not the other guy. All right, let's see. Let's continue. More settings, more fixes, global auto masking. You know, auto masking, the settings that allows you to, for example, have the topology masking or faces masking. Well, now that is available more in a more global way, because it's also possible to use it with the filters, the mesh filters. So when you're painting, you can apply it there, and I guess you can also use for other kinds of filters. So super good to see this feature that was only available before for brushes, so now see it here. So there is a small change also. This also removes the use face sets option from the mesh filter code, as it was duplicated from the auto masking code just to have that functionality. This is now handled by the regular auto masking system. So yeah, super. This week was packed with stuff and I'm not even halfway. All right, let's see. This is a fix. There is many other fixes. I'm not sharing here every change, though. That would be a multiple hour live stream. But this is one of the fixes. For example, for the use poly flags using face sets visibility. Basically, now when you change the multi-res levels, the sculpt visibility is going to be preserved. So that's a nice thing to have. There is another fix that related to the anchor strokes. When you're drawing and you use anchor strokes that you can, it stays in place and then you draw it. Now the delta orientation will be preserved to do crazy things like this. gloop, gloop, gloop. That's like, well, yeah, it's literally sculpting wrinkles, but this is illegal too. This is cheating. Come on. It's like, I want to sculpt, I want a little wrinkle there and there. Illegal. Somebody take this computer from this guy. Next, fix cloth brush artifacts in the affected area. So the grab brush, when using with the soft body, had its issues. It looked like this, which is kind of cool though, but it's not what you would expect. So there is a current master is this changed with the soft body plasticity implemented. The artifacts in the tip of the brush are clearly visible, as you can see here on the tip of the brush. So with the fix, it looks something like this. So it's more what you would expect. Super stable. Look at that smooth transitions. That's so cool. So nice when, like, when you see a feature get added like a couple of versions ago, and then, oh, this is awesome, it's perfect, but then you should see it getting better and better and better, and you didn't think it could get better, but actually, yeah, it can keep getting better. Better not only just adding new features, but improving what was already there. So super cool. Let's continue. Another fix, because we are now talking about fixes. This fix, the mask expand, was creating the wrong masks when the cursor is not over the mesh. So you can see here, for example, that if your mouse wasn't over the mesh exactly, it wouldn't create the right mask expand. It wouldn't expand the mask properly. Now it does. End of the story. Fixed. What you see here is working properly. And the last fix, actually, is a shout out also to Leah for fixing this. It's a fix in the voxel remesher to preserve these. You can see here. So this is the original mesh. Remeshing into 83, you look like this, where some of the corners were not great, and now it has been fixed, especially here. Look at this area. So yeah, you can see the patch remeshing. Super cool. I think Pablo, people are asking in the chat about the specs of Pablo Vazquez. He shared them once on Twitter. I don't remember exactly when, but it was a while, and it was unless he upgraded his computer, it wasn't crazy yeah, it wasn't something that you couldn't buy, or like an astronaut like would use to go to space. So it should be, that's important, right? The developers testing hardware that is not the state of the art. Otherwise, yeah, you don't optimize as much as you should. All right, let's continue. Actually, we just need to change topics. We are done with with this. Motion blur in Eevee has got an improvement. It actually is a new setting. It's a shutter position option, so it makes it fit with like Cycles is. So Cycle has a setting for positioning the shutter. You can control at what point the shutter opens in relation to the current frame. So this setting from Cycles is now available in Eevee. So closing the gap between the two render engines. Isn't that great? Also, subframes were not taken into account in Eevee, and they were in Cycles. So now they are. So more kudos to developers. In this case was Clément Foucault. Thank you for closing the gap between Eevee and Cycles. All right. People are asking, yeah, I think Pablo Vazquez uses Linux. People are asking, did I get the NVIDIA 3080? No, I didn't get it yet. And I don't have a desktop computer at home. I think at some point I'm gonna go to the studio, to the Blender Studio HQ, to pick up my computer, because I'm working with my laptop now. It's not nice sometimes when you have to like do heavy lifting. We're actually changing the topic again. Cycles now has support for CUDA 11. So this is more of a technical thing, and it's also for supporting the latest and greatest. Now, since we're talking about this, about the latest NVIDIA graphics card, this also should be part of that. So you can use CUDA 11. And let's move into the topic of the day. If it wasn't enough, what we share today with the volume to mesh is the animation, because yeah, there was a lot of talking about the Animation 2020 project, about what is it even. The 2020 was looking like the year where it wouldn't happen, basically, because of Corona. It made it hard so to get developers together and make a real plan for how Animation 2020 would go. However, I've been like just spontaneously almost, there are developers and contributors from the community that are making the Animation 2020 not Animation 20 but animation improvements in the editors, little tweaks here and there, and the developer that is maintaining this area, Siveren Stufel, is also working more closely with the animation department at the Blender studio to improve this. Also involving more people from the community, that also helps a lot. So let's start. Animation. This well, you can see some of the improvements already in the wiki.blender.org in the release notes in the 291 section. Animation and rigging. I already talked about this in the past, but if in case you missed it, let's recap a little bit, and then I'm gonna go through the other features. So the F-curves, in 2.90, you couldn't, like this shape, for example, it was just not possible. This shape of curves, it's probably not the best way of animating. Actually, if you look at how the animation plays, you could say that 290 was like more smooth and better. But the thing is that you shouldn't be. It was a limitation in Blender. Now, of course you can have this amount of smoothness in 2.91 as well. The thing is that if the curve is this way, it's because you probably wanted it to be that way. So now you can push, you can animate it like this, and it will be it will work like expected. Another change is, like, if you're an animator, you probably know this. Even if you're not an animator and just doing maybe like other kind of basic animation or rigging with actions, every time you add a keyframe, it will add it with the handles flat. So it would just be wrong. You have to fix it every time you add a new keyframe, or you subdivide. For example, subdivision was working well, I think, but look at this, the blue curve. I don't know if you get to see it, but it was just wrong. Not anymore. 291, it's just fixed. It's fixed. It works as it should, always. Then now there is a new setting, internal setting for the active keyframe. This is more of an internal change at the, like, if more under the hood. You're gonna see a difference now, because Blender before wasn't really showing the active keyframe. It had some kind of concept, not under the hood, but for the user interface using the last selection. It was super weird. Now it has a proper way of having the active keyframe. So the commit itself is about inserting the keyframe. The feature that I wanted to mention is insert keyframes while preserving the shape of the curve. This is the one. Then there are improvements also in the snapping. So now you can actually snap the cursor, the 2D cursor of the editors. You can now snap it to the to whatever. So it's more. It was actually like an issue / fix that was needed, because you couldn't snap the 2D cursor. You know, in the animation editors, you have, oops, Blender is huge. Let's make it smaller. If you had a keyframe in the animation editors, like the curve, like the graph editor, the 2D cursor, so the horizontal line, show cursor. It wouldn't well, now you can't see it because it's in 0, so it looks like it's here. But now you can actually just simply like do Shift S for snapping, and you can do you can cursor to selection, and it's gonna set it there. And you can also just do the cursor itself, and then it's not gonna change the frame, the current frame. And that's amazing, because before, every time you wanted to put the cursor there, you will snap the frame as well. Not anymore. You can choose to just get the value to the cursor. So props for that. You can see here, of course, the snap menu in the graph editor now can snap the full 2D cursor and just the cursor value. Super nice. Non-linear animation. So the NLA editor is famous in Blender for having been a bit broken in 2.7. 2.7 NLA editor, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. But since then, it's been fixed for 2.80, 81, 2, and 3. There's no exception in 291, but there is one specific change that will make it more, make it feel more like animation layers in a way, because you can basically do it. You can do it in the current NLA, but it's not what people are used to from other animation softwares. In this case, for example, this little change to always show the all strips in the NLA is it makes it feel more like animation layers. So the user can now see the next strip when they want to start editing. So in the wiki, I'm gonna see now that non-active strips also no longer get hidden when entering edit mode. Before, if you enter the edit mode of an action, of a strip, then everything else will get hidden. Not super nice. Not super nice. Also, the NLA system now evaluates the strip based on the action bounce if it's flagged for syncing. Now the animator can freely insert and modify keys outside of the strip bounce, so outside of your current strip. They will never have to touch the strip bounce directly. Changing the evaluation bounce is as simple as moving keys around. Isn't that nice? And the sync length now no longer moves animation keys around. So when you sync the length of a NLA strip, so for example, this is the problem that if you add a keyframe and it will sync. So you see, you add, now it's drawing the shape of the cube, and then you sync the length. Now this little button here is the sync the length. Now you see it was broken. It changed the shape. So not very nice. And now let's zoom in here for extra. Here, look, it's making a drawing. This is a fix. This is just a fix, but it was night and day. Now you sync the length and the shape stays there, the object stays there. So yeah, it's a long list of little fixes here and there that are gonna be 2.90. They're gonna make 2.91 a software that you can actually recommend for making animations for animators. And I mean, if people have been doing animation, like they made feature films with Blender in the past, but the NLA was probably not the way of doing it. Now you can actually trust the NLA a bit more. An actual new feature in the dope sheet is the inversion of the search. Now when you search to filter the channels in the dope sheet, now you can invert it. Ignore this icon, the plus icon. Remember at the beginning of the show I mentioned that now it's a more predictable icon, something that you would understand a bit better. And last but not least, copy to selected. Do you know this feature? Are you familiar with it? It's a bit hidden, but it's a way that Blender has to copy the current value to other objects that have a similar value, like have the equivalent in their own settings. For example, the again, I didn't change my Let's save my user settings for reals there. So there are a few settings like, well, we all know that editing multiple objects in Blender can be a bit of a non-very, how would you say, user-friendly way of changing things. Not user-friendly, it's not expected. Like if you come from another software, probably you are expecting that if you have 3 cubes selected and you change, for example, the viewport display setting to make it show as a wire, you would expect all the objects to change because you have them all selected. Well, in Blender is not that way. However, you can simply, if you change the wire, you can basically right click and then copy to selected, and it will change the value in all the other selected objects. That's super nice. There is also a shortcut for that, of course, because it's Blender. There are shortcuts for everything. You can hold Alt and then click on the setting you want to change, and it will apply to all the other objects. This copy to selected setting, it's now available for keyframes, also for the graph editor. So for the animation editors. So it's super nice that it wasn't there before. You have to change one by one because of the way this was implemented. Let's see, how is the chat going, by the way? I see some it's just people with all caps in their names. It looks like people shouting. Is this PC? Yes, I'm using a PC, a personal computer, but it's running Linux. Maybe that's why it doesn't look like what people call PC. Why did Microsoft why is it an equivalent of PC? Mac is also a personal computer. I'm starting to close everything, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get. Okay, let's talk about 2 more things and then switch to the questions, just so we get enough time. Section of rigging. Since we're talking of animation, let's talk a little bit about rigging as well. The action constraint now has a manual time factor input control, so you can control the time manually. So the action constraint, it's a slider where you can you can basically specify the time. You can control time. So time. Oops, let me switch into my evil twin here. Yes, manual time factor input control. Isn't that great? Rigging is gonna make use of this. Animators, anybody. It was actually added a few months ago. Actually, this was authored in June, but the commit is from September. Actually, authored by Chris Klein. So thank you, Chris. I thought it was Sivran. Yeah, Sivran committed, but super cool. And the last one is about constraints, the child of constraint. Thanks to Joseph Brandenburg, which is in the chat there. Just put an emoji. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Joe, the anger specialist. Constraints, child of, set inverse matrix upon creation. Set the inverse matrix when the child of constraint is created. This prevents the bound object from jumping away when the constraint is added, improving usability. Yes, that flicker that happens when you inverse the matrix is no longer there. So bye glitches. Isn't that great? Awesome. I know you coded this and it's a lot of work and it's amazing, but if we're gonna get greedy asking you favors, maybe a little video is fun to show, you know, like 10 seconds, just something very quick. Easy fix too. It's not easy. I mean, it's easy if you know like all this stuff. It's actually one-liner. Wow. Hey, one-liner, but you have to know where that line is. So props. Thank you, Joe, and hope to see more from you. Actually, let's talk your user here. Let's see what I've been doing lately. I've been adding inline comments to fixes. You're fixing Blender as well. Thank you. And giving love tokens, more fixes. Dude, you're doing so much. Thank you. Nice. Awesome. Cool. All right, let's go to the questions. Otherwise, I'm gonna run out of time. So starts the Q&A section 5 minutes before 6 o'clock. Really bad, Pablo. But today was an exciting day. There was so much to talk about. All right, so let's see how many questions. 28. Let's try and go quickly. I'm gonna get my throat wet. This is yerba mate. It's very popular in Argentina. It's not some weird Amsterdam stuff. We're in lockdown. Amsterdam, at least. Let's start. So Pascal is the most voted question with 5 hearts. Let's see. Since the title is about animations, have you guys thought about how you're going to approach turning rigging into nodes base? It seems to me that it will be very hard, especially with the way armatures work with 2 modes, edit and pose. Any discussion about it yet, or just waiting for the storm to come? Maybe Sivren will know better. Sivren is the developer that is working in the animation module. But I think anything that is nodes related, still it's on hold, because we need at least one project that is using the new the new everything nodes concept, and that will be the particle system, which started being implemented in master, but now it's going to have a bit of a rewrite, or like rethinking how it's going to be implemented. It's more the first step, it will be like geometry nodes, which is actually today we had a 2-hour meeting about it, about how it's gonna, like how is the most simple example we can do, like distributing pebbles on the ground, like, or grass, you know, super simple. Using the new nodes. That's simple, the most simple example, because what you can right now, the current implementation in master, it's very powerful. It has like many nodes, but we need more of a simple example first to get it working, and then work on top of that. So for the rigging side of things, it will take time, I would say. Especially because, yeah, you need modifier nodes first and then rigging. So yes, it will take time, but you know, you can speed up time. You can control time yourself if you join the Blender Development Fund. Thank you for the segue. Oh wow, 5,032. Last week we reached 5,000 live. So actually it's been like 31 people that joined this week. Thank you. That is so good to see. All right, next question by Bortsberry. Hi Pablo, not a question. I just want to mention the author and everyone who worked on the patch of this patch. So let's see. I don't know what is this error. Expose non-adaptive subdivision mode in subsurf modifier. Provide the ability to disable feature adaptive subdivision. This disables snapping to limit surface and brings back the iterative results. The description here. So yeah, it's an improvement. I think it is, I mentioned last week, but it's more about compatibility, right? Yes. I would also like to thank Piotr Ostrowski. You're my hero, buddy. For me as a modeler, this is kind of a big deal. In addition, I am very impressed with how smoothly it was implemented, from the topic in right-click select to the thread on DevTalk. Then Piotr got involved, and now we have this great tool. This is a very inspiring example for me. Wow, I actually haven't followed this particular subdivision surface. Behaves different compared to Maya and ZBrush. Maybe that's why I didn't follow this very closely. But so 279, Maya and ZBrush, and Blender. In 279 it was correct. Because of the OpenSubdiv implementation. Yeah. Well, thank you for the kind words to the developers, and this seems to be a good example of how things could be tackled, right? From going from right-click select, the community that you find here on the left, to add proposals, to a thread on DevTalk when you can talk directly to the developers to see how that can be tackled, and then actually making it. So thank you, Piotr Ostrowski, for working on it, and thank you, Forceberry, for acknowledging that. And you know, giving thanks is super important, just as important as the person making the fixes. How are the compositor improvements going? Really looking forward to this. There are currently no improvements as far as I know. Focus has been elsewhere in Eevee. Well, actually, Eevee is getting AOB passes. The AOB is just like cycles. So that kind of similar to the compositor, but it's not maybe the type that you were hoping for. The idea in the future is that the compositor is it's real time, just like Eevee, you know. That's the idea in the future. Next question. Hi Pablo and the team. I have two questions that I want to ask you guys about the future of Blender. Do you think you will add more ways to import in the future, like VPK, VTF, etc.? For importers, usually they are contributed by the community. Usually the core developers in Blender, they added like the industry standards such as Alembic and USD. Actually, the USD importer is being worked on not by Blender Foundation developers, but it's being added by external developers, I think from NVIDIA. The same way that the VR action stuff, like actually controlling Blender via VR, is being developed by people at Ubisoft, and they're just contributing to Blender. So features like this are better, like implementing a whole new importer or exporter, are better left for contributors from the community, and leaving the Blender core developers from the Blender Foundation to fix stuff that are already existing in Blender and keep Blender stable, because they already know it upside down. All right, so the second question is, do you think you'll have a real-time file sharing like Google Docs as a feature? Working on a big project together is hard when you have to share the files separately. Well, actually Ubisoft people are also working on that, right? Is the Blender Ubisoft, how is it? Mixer, yes. It's an add-on, it's a real-time collaboration add-on that is open source, and it's being developed by Ubisoft, the games company. So yeah, super good that you see people, you see the community and studios that can actually afford to hire people. Well, actually, it was 3 hours ago. It's really alive, this project. Like studios, and the Blender Foundation doesn't have to invest in this and these kind of tools, but the studios can, and do it and use it in production, like make AAA games. All right, next question. Reinep asks, hey Pablo, I hope you're doing well. Thank you, I'm doing really well. Any update on everything nodes, particle nodes? I just mentioned that we just had a meeting, and the upcoming changes and development are going to be shared on Fabricator on developer.blender.org. But we just started this week with this kind of meetings, and so we hope to see to be able to share. Well, we are gonna share it, but we need to find a place, which is gonna be developer.blender.org. Augusto says, hi Pablo, hope you're doing well and safe. Me too. I hope to. Had questions. Will cycle becomes as fast as e-cycles any day soon? I kind of love the competition on this. It's not a competition. One is open source, the other one is not. But it's Blender development concerned that cycles could be faster, and it will make e-cycles obsolete. Stay safe and thanks, man. I have no experience with the e-cycles. I just know that it's like a collection of patches that are on Blender, on developer.blender.org, plus some development on top. But I have never seen the code, which is which if it's included in Blender. Actually, if anybody of you actually bought the add-on, I think you cannot have access to the code because it's part of the GPL license, but I'm not sure if that applies because, you know, Cycles is Apache, but I'm not sure actually. I don't have any. It's GPL2 and Apache, so at least the GPL part should be available, right, as a when you buy or when you get the developer that gives you a code that has GPL, it has to give you a way to deal with that license, to see the code, to access the code as part of the GPL2. At least it changes. GPL2 is about the changes. GPL3 has to give you the entire code, I think, if I'm not wrong. I hate this license stuff. But yeah, anyway, the GPL does apply since eCycles is distributed combined with Blender here, Julian comments. So yeah, I don't know, the eCycles code should be available online to be able to see even what is it doing, because you don't know, maybe it's adding a lot of code that is specific for some kind of graphics cards, and cycles should be fast. Well, Blender should be fast for all graphics cards, for AMD, for NVIDIA, for Intel, for everything. So there are some improvements that, or maybe yeah, it's hard to know, but maybe this or other render engines or improvements are cutting corners in areas that Blender can't afford, like I don't know, maybe some kind of animations have glitches or not, or some kind of I don't know, hair rendering, or I don't know. There are ways to cut to make rendering faster, but there are also ways it shouldn't be done. There are ways that it shouldn't be done. Anyway, thanks for the question, and it's 6 minutes past the moment where I started the live stream, so let's do maybe like 5 more questions. Matterform asks, so I did what you said. I am almost done with making a complete list of all the hotkeys for both Blender and industrial keys from the Python files. This way we can see which features are left out of the industry keys. Will developers like this see I'm almost done making a complete list of all the hotkeys for both Blender and the industrial compatible key. And this way we can see which features are left out of the industry keys. Will you developers like this, since a complete list for both doesn't exist? If so, where should I post it? Well, this is awesome. What is it? This is a spreadsheet? Maybe maybe this can be just shared on here on Blender Today, just to get some feedback, or on developer.blender. No, sorry, not there. In DevTalk, maybe, if it concerns developers. But again, remember the industry compatible key map. The goal is not to have all the keys, and then I mean, some of the keys are the shortcuts are left out on purpose, so they are not because people may want to add their own custom ones. And yeah, Blender currently doesn't have a way to detect the collision between two shortcuts. That's a pity. So if the key map has already many shortcuts taken, how do you know which one you're overriding? How do you know? How do you keep track? So yeah, having a list is always nice, but maybe you can go into here. Let's add it to the Blender Today. Maybe make it on a Google spreadsheet and share the link, the view link, so people can check it out and give you feedback. Next question, number 4. Gilberto Rodriguez. Hello, Pablo. Why aren't Blendful thumbnails activated by the installer? Most users don't know that thumbnails even exist, and they can be activated via command line, at least in Windows. So in let's see, so most users don't know thumbnails. It should be activated, the thumbnails should be activated by the Windows installer. The maybe, how are you installing Blender nowadays? Because you know, you can use the Windows Store, or you can use Steam. So maybe comment which kind of installer are you using, and report it as a bug, because if it's not working, then yeah, it's a bug. However, for people that are using Windows, I think it's Blender-R for, like, you need to Blender, I guess it's Blender.exe. Are they still using this? You need to go to the folder and then R, or just do Blender.-help. and you're gonna find all the commands there. I'm not gonna see it. Well, I don't have Blender installed here because I compiled it myself. But yeah, if it doesn't work maybe it works in the MSI installer but not in the Steam or the other ones, please report it. Let's see. Facundo de la Rosa, hi Pablo, me again. What version of Blender will have Vulkan fully implemented? Yeah, well, that's a big bet. We are in 291, 292, 290. Let's say 290. Well, I can't. Nah, it's just why would I say a version? It's very difficult. At the end of the year, we're gonna be 291. At the beginning of next year, 292. Fully implemented, I wouldn't say before 3.0. It's a progress, right? You need to first implement the basics and give the option for people to use Vulkan and test it, and OpenGL as a backup. You know, you can't just make the switch. I think for a while we should be able to have like both at the same time. I should be able to choose. So yeah, I wouldn't. It's hard to say. Depends on how many people, hey, join the Blender Development Fund. Facundo de la Rosa, hi Pablo, how are you doing? I'm doing great. I have 2 questions regarding sculpting. This is number 3. Which version will have the improvements of the performance in sculpting that Pablo Navarro is doing? 291 or 292? I don't think 291 because it's already too late. As in 2 days we're entering beta, and I'm not sure if that's a good... I don't know how deep the changes go, so it's probably too late for having that improvement for 291. So I would bet for 292. What is the plan for the Intopo in the future? Will it be removed? Will it improve? Will it stay as it is? So far it will stay as it is. Will it be removed? No. Will it improve? More likely, actually. The developer that code a big part of B-Mesh, this is the mesh system behind Blender, jumped into the chat the other day, the blender.chat channels, the coder channels, and mentioned that yeah, that that mesh system wasn't coded with Intopo in mind, so that's why it's not the best implementation, and that he would be interested in actually making some improvements to it. And there are improvements already on branch, but it's too early, and I don't know exactly when it's that planned, like in a 1 or 2 versions from now. But it's great to see this developer actually coming back to the community to do this, going back, never leaving the community, but like showing up again. So yeah. And the last 2 questions. Yes, Diego says, hello Pablo, I would like to know if there is any prediction about when we will get updates, replacements for the Intopo. Actually this is exactly what I just explained. And the last one, hey Pablo, how are ya? I always forget to ask about something related to shape keys. I found a dirty way to export objects animated with displacement modifier and empties into Unreal Engine. I'm not saying I discovered it, but I found this method on my own. The problem is that it's very time consuming and annoying. For example, if the animation loop is 60 frames, I duplicate 60 displace modifiers and then I apply them into shape keys for every next frame of the animation. Wow. Well, I mean, that can be a script. But then I have 60 shape keys, which I keyframe by hand on every frame and then export the object to Unreal Engine 4 with NLA, and it works like a charm. Is there a way to combine all of this in one function or a button or something more quicker than all of that? Anyway, thank you for everything, Blender community. Thank you for writing. This is, well, there are ways. If you can do this by hand, you can definitely do it via Python. So try to find a developer, Python developer that's maybe interested. Go to blender.chat and the Python channel. You can find some help there. But it is gonna, this looks like a little add-on that could be made fairly simple if you already know the steps. But yeah, you need to know the Python API. And then a better way to do it. Probably using another format, right? If that should be compatible with this. Anyway, I think that's it. Yes, more everything knows. I already talked about this, but we are super late, actually 10-11 minutes after 1 hour, and I have to start the Blender OI version. The Blender youtube.com/BlenderOI is this same thing, but I'm speaking Spanish and I look a little bit more tired than now because yeah, because it's one in now. If you're Spanish speaking or if you want to learn Spanish, you're welcome to join BlenderOI. And for the rest of you, I will leave you with a very fulfilling episode today. We saw all kinds of improvements from volumes. That was a nice moment, nice highlight of today's episode. The volume and seeing everybody in the chat getting excited, and oh, we can make caves and foam, and then we saw some sculpting improvements, animation, user interface. Today we really had a lot of everything. All right, how is everything in the chat? Sergey, this show you. I live in Spain, but I don't want to speak this language. How dare you? Spanish. If you speak Spanish, you're suddenly going to have like 600 million new friends, because everybody speaks it in the whole South America pretty much, except a few countries, and Latin America and Spain and everywhere. And it's such a nice language. Come on, it's like you get some poetry. All right, cool. I gotta go. Thank you for tuning in. It's been another awesome episode. Next week, same place, same time, we're gonna be talking about the beta 2.91. Gonna switch to beta, and the 292 cycle will start. Isn't that crazy? And the Blender conference also next week. Gee, so much. All right, let's rest some. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you again next week, same place, same time, for another episode of Blender Today. Bye bye. Gracias. Arigato. Grazie. Merci. Danke. Dankeschön. Dankjewel. Tak. I don't know. Tell me. Bye. Thank you. Ciao. Gracias. Namaste.